Hi, welcome to Craft It Sweetly. I'm Diana. Thanks so much for being here. So in this video, I wanted to show you something a little different to do with the rocks. You may have seen painted rocks with messages on the back. You may have seen dotted rocks like this. This one I already painted on the back. This one is just a natural, but this is done dotting. It's called dotting, and it's done with specific tools to create the different size dots on here. And I may do a future video on this, we'll see. But in this one, I wanted to show you something that I've used this material in other projects before, so I wanted to show you what I'm doing with this. So I have these rocks. I have a link below where I got these rocks. What I wanted rocks that were fairly flat. As you can see in this, they're not, you know, like rounded. So you do want a fairly flat surface on the rock. And what I did, what you want to do first thing is paint them. So I'm using acrylic paint, and let me put some in here. This is getting towards the bottom of the bottle here, so I don't have much. Whoops, there we go. And I'm using a sponge like this to paint these rocks. I didn't want to use a brush because it's going to leave the streaks too much on here. So I'm just using this brush, and it's pretty loaded because I don't want, as you know, I'm trying to minimize the number of streaks on the rock itself. And this will take, you know, a little bit to dry. I do have some that I already painted, so we can move on to the next step. I don't have to wait for these to dry. But you want to go in one direction and then maybe go in the other direction to make sure that it's covered. But ultimately you want to do the brush in the same direction, same stroke, and very, very gentle. You're almost hovering over the rock. So as little streaking as possible. And I'm not worried about doing the rock all the way to the bottom. More than likely I'm going to do the bottom black because I want to write on it. I mean, I can write on the white as well, but I have some Posca pens that I'll show you when I do the writing on the back. And I just like the writing on a black surface. Same thing, just apply the paint generously on here and do go down around the sides of it as much as you can without going under. So that's the painted rock. At this point, these would be allowed to, you know, just set them aside to dry. Now the next thing to do is I'm going to use Mod Podge to apply this to the rock. So I'm taking napkins, and I've done another video with making, you know, different techniques in making cards with napkins, but I thought what a fun thing to do is to apply the napkin to the rock. So an easy way that a viewer way back explained about taking the ply off. So this is multiple plies, and I used to kind of like try and do this and try and figure out where the edge is to separate. A quick easy way is just to use tape, and you can easily pick off the layer. And it may, some are 3-ply, which I think this is, maybe, we'll see. So this is a 3-ply napkin, and I don't want to apply 2 plies to the rock because then that could separate. But if I pull this right here, see it's separating, there's another ply to this. So once I kind of separate it in one corner, I can go around and separate it like this, and then just pull away this layer as well. So now this is just the colored part. Now I have some rocks that are already painted and dried, just because I wanted to move on with the project and show you. So I'll take the rock and kind of position it and see what part of the napkin looks best on here based on the size of the rock. And little rocks, I mean, you could probably do something on a tiny rock with this, for example. This would be perfect. This little tiny butterfly would be great on a rock. But I have this hummingbird, so I want to make sure that this, you know, some of it will be off to the edge, but that's about the area that I want on the rock. So I'm gonna take the scissors and cut a much larger area than I actually need. And the reason I'm doing that is some of it will kind of go over the side of the rock, and then I'll trim afterwards. So that's the area that I want on the rock. So I'll take this and then apply the Mod Podge using the same kind of brush. So I tried applying the napkin straight to a rock that I had just painted, and unfortunately that does not work. You have to paint it, let it dry, and then use Mod Podge. When I tried to do that, I'm not sure if you can see in this video right here, I'll try and zoom in for you, but the paint actually kind of seeped through the layer of napkin, so it ended up with like little tiny dots of white. So I didn't like that effect to it. So I have Mod Podge on here, and I have to kind of carefully reposition this exactly where you want it. There's no do-over on this in terms of picking it up and doing it again. So this will seep through the napkin as well. I can kind of feel the Mod Podge. So you want to do this gently. You don't want to rub like this because you're going to rip the napkin. Okay, so just press around. And what I'll do is I'm going to apply a little more Mod Podge right around the edge where I'm gluing this, just to make sure that it sticks, the napkin sticks right on the edge here. And then we'll trim the rest of it off. So I wanted to kind of wrap around the rock, basically. And at that point I can trim this off. What's a lot of the excess. And now I'm going to go around and press down on the napkin right around the edge here, because I want to make sure that the edge of the napkin is glued down. Now, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but there are a few bubbles here, so I can tell close up that there are a few tiny bubbles, and I just need to go back over the napkin and press out. That bubble will actually kind of like just rise to the surface through the napkin because the napkin is so porous. So there's no problem in trying to like make the bubble travel down the rock to the edge of the napkin. You just kind of press it and it flattens the napkin. Okay, and then if I look to the back side, you know, again, edge, you want to make sure that that's glued down. And now we just let this dry. Now the next step for this would be sealing it. So you can either seal this with resin or just spray it. And what I used was just a spray sealant, and I'll show you what that is in a second. But it's really easy to just, you know, create fun designs with it. Here's another napkin that, you know, I mean, you can make a whole set of these where the you know, here's, this would be perfect, this rock for this hummingbird because it's vertical. So let me trim this napkin. I was gonna do so I trimmed the napkin to make it a little easier to work with. Let's see, do I want to use that one or this one? Oh boy, decisions. That's the same one as that. So I will go back to my original one here and apply this one here. Now this would work great as well. You know, again, just take away the multiple layers and then the flowers would go over it. But let me apply this one here since I have the Mod Podge ready and the brush all done. I'm just gonna apply a layer of the Mod Podge just like in the previous one. Okay, so I have applied this napkin on this one as well, which I love this. That's what I loved about these rocks. There are just so many shapes and sizes that you can kind of create whatever you would like. So once this is done, then I spray this using this Krylon Crystal Clear. It's acrylic coating. Dries in minutes. I do like 3 coats on here, and then this is what it looks like. You can kind of see a slight shine to this compared to this, maybe. Can you see the slight shine? So this is flat because it has not been coated, and this is coated. Now on the back I painted it black using acrylic paint, and then you just write. So search for an interesting quote. So here's one that I did using the sunflower napkin. But so this one is painted. These I have not painted yet. But then I use these Posca pens, which this one is, how many millimeter is this? I think it's 0.7, if I remember correctly. But I will put a link below for these. I like it because it's extremely thin, the tip of it. So you can write, you know, very legibly on something. It's not gonna take up a lot of, you know, be super thick and then hard to read. So I just searched for a quote online, and I like this one. It's one day or day one, you decide. And as far as who wrote it, it says unknown. So I just write the quote on here. But as you can see, this pen is extremely thin, so it's easy to write, especially on small areas. Okay, so see, that was really easy to write on here, and it's a nice way to add a little inspirational quote on here. Now you can seal this side as well, and then what you can do with these is, obviously you can give them as gifts, or what people do with a lot of these rocks is just hide them for somebody to find them, and then when they find them they have an inspirational quote. You just don't know whose day you might brighten with it. Hope this gave you another idea on what to do, another project for napkins. I have tons of napkins. Now, the patterns obviously that take up the whole napkin would not work, but something that has smaller designs in it would make a great design on it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please comment below. Would love to see the rocks you create using a napkin. Join my Facebook group, post your projects there. Would love to see them. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next project.